welcome back, everybody. I am here to read the second chapter of the book, and as you can see, my glasses have been broken, busted by some little shit that I will not mention. And talking about children is the perfect time because this next chapter is all about the kids. It is called Kids These Days. The past chapter we read was just an introduction about the amazing man, Adam Carolla himself. And as we read through the book of Carolla, I want you to have an open mind and to listen to these words and not just react, which most of you do, because this man is damn intelligent. Let's see if I can read without my glasses. Kids these days. I have 2 kids, twin boys, and a girl. My girl I don't worry about. Or twins, a boy and a girl. My girl I don't worry about. See, the glasses are already affecting. I'm sure she'll have 6-pack abs, be well trained in mixed martial arts, and will at least be bilingual, hopefully not bi-curious. My son I worry about. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be gay. At this point I'm just hoping he's not bottom. Sorry to sound closed-minded and uptight, but let's face it, no dad wants his son to be gay. Not only do you not get grandkids, but I'm sure high school is no picnic for a 15-year-old gay boy. On the other hand, maybe I'm just viewing this through the bifocals of an old heterosexual dude. The way things are going, my son will probably get his ass kicked for not being gay. Carolla thinks he's too good to suck cock. Oh wait, let's do that in a better voice. Carolla thinks he's too good to suck cock. Come on, boys, let's get him. Never mind gay. At the rate we're moving, in a couple of years, you won't be able to tell the difference between chicks and dudes. Sounds extreme? Well, think about this. In every movie where advanced time-traveling beings come to our planet, there's one constant. They have no junk. The crotch is always smooth. You can't tell the dude aliens from the chick aliens. It's not like in Signs, Mel Gibson said, Commander Zorbak is cool, but his old lady is such a cunt. You can't tell them apart. We can all look forward to a future of super long fingers and no cock. I can't wait. But that's the future. Kids today are soft, fat, and self-entitled. People ask why. Is it junk food? No. Junk food has been around for 50 years. Make that 60 because this book is 10 years old pretty much. As a matter of fact, back then it was worse. There were no salads or green apple slices in a McDonald's. If I went into McDonald's when I was 9 and someone handed me an apple, I would have kicked him in the nuts. Is it video games? Nope. Video games have been around for 40 years. None of the kids playing them back in the day were morbidly obese. We're all scratching our heads trying to figure out what we've introduced to society to ruin our kids. But it's nothing that we've added that's ruined our kids. It's stuff that we've gotten rid of. First thing was the gym rope. Remember that thing that stretched from the floor to the ceiling in your gym class that you could never climb? That constant reminder that you were inferior? It's the only apparatus I'm aware of that makes it possible for you to be ridiculed while people stare at your nuts. Most of the kids couldn't make it to the top, but that wasn't the point. The point was you had to try while some middle-aged guy in a windbreaker who couldn't make it up the flight of stairs yelled at you. At some point, somebody decided the ropes needed to be removed. Sparing the kids the rod is a good thing. Sparing them the rope, it's a horrible idea. We should have put Lardo on that rope, given him a 3 Mississippi head start, and then sent a subway rat scurrying after him. But we didn't want to shame the boy, so we took them all down, gave everyone a participation trophy, and a pamphlet on secondhand smoke, and sent them to a cultural diversity seminar. Taking down the rope would be a capital idea if there were no ropes in life, but they're everywhere. You just can't see them. They're in the workplace, they're in relationships, they're in every goal unrealized and expectation not met. The point everyone missed about the rope is you weren't supposed to make it to the top. It was there to create a fire that burned in the oversized belly of every kid who couldn't shimmy up it. A fire that has now been forever extinguished and with stuffed crust pizza and Mountain Dew. The next thing we removed was peanuts. Now, I know a lot of you assholes have a friend who works with someone who once was date raped by a guy whose stepson was in a Cub Scout group with a kid whose half-brother is allergic to peanuts. I feel sorry for that kid, but that doesn't mean the other 2,000 kids in school should be denied the simple pleasure of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Once again, we have put the individual ahead of the group. How many of these kids truly have nut allergies? I'm not saying there's no such thing as a kid who would go into anaphylactic shock if he keistered a payday. I'm saying our paranoia has turned a rare occurrence into a full-blown epidemic. My kids' preschool adopted a no-nuts policy. I'm happy to report that last year when they asked me to MC their charity bake sale, I explained to them that I also have a no-nuts policy. I don't MC bake sales for paranoid nut jobs. How is it I managed to be warehoused at one of the largest junior highs in the country with nary a kid allergic to peanuts, and now every third kid on my block has to carry a effing syringe full of epinephrine? Have we changed physiologically in that short of a time period, or what? Or is it, as I suspected, an emotional change? Epinephrine, sorry, I didn't even know how to read. A syringe full of epinephrine. As I suspected, an emotional change. Whenever Whitey runs out of problems, these things rear their ugly heads. Remember black mold a few years back? Same group. I saw an episode of 60 Minutes a couple years ago where a team of doctors came up with a paste to feed the malnourished children of, wait, are you sitting down for this? Africa. The paste consisted of powdered sugar, powdered milk, and peanut butter. It was called Plumpy Nut and was so effective that it brought entire villages from the brink of death up to the health standards of America, colonial America. During the interview, when the doctor was boasting about the amazing achievement, Anderson Cooper asked, "But what about the peanut allergies?" The doctor explained it's not a problem there. So why is it that kids who are severely malnourished and basically have the immune system of a rat on AIDS at hospice aren't allergic to peanuts? I contend it's because they have real problems. We've run out of real problems, so now we've manufactured invisible ones. So what's the big deal about getting rid of the peanut butter sandwich? I'll give you two reasons, one practical and one symbolic. First, practical. No sandwich travels better than peanut butter and jelly. The time between when it is made at 4:64 in the morning to when the lunch bell rings are 5 of the toughest hours on a sandwich. Sliding around the floor of a school bus in a brown bag, sitting on a bench exposed to the elements, and being smashed into a dank locker will bring an egg salad or bologna with mayo to its knees, but not the resilient PB&J. Peanut butter and jelly is the only sandwich that actually gets better with time, like a fine Cabernet that sticks to the roof of your mouth. How many other sandwiches can boast about sitting in the sun and it makes them better? Thus, it's the perfect sandwich for a sack lunch. Also, no sandwich goes better with milk. But this point will be moot in a few months when the school becomes a lactose-free zone. Now for the symbolic. If there's a kid in your class whose heart will explode if somebody whispers the name George Washington Carver, by all means, ban the peanut butter and jelly. My problem is that kid isn't in my kid's class. We now live in a society where everything's an emergency, and we won't acknowledge a difference between the people who get hives from peanut butters and the ones who windpipes will swell shut. So who shall we blame? I blame us because we caved to the hypochondriac, red book reading, Oprah watching, crystal rubbing, Whole Food shopping, survivor of incest moms and their pussy whipped attorney husbands. I know these problems are all in our heads, and this next made up problem is on my son's head. When my son was 5 months old, hey, these people need to stop honking back there. Crazy. When my son was 5 months old, my wife told me the pediatrician suggested he had some asymmetry in his skull and that he should see a specialist. Of course the problem wasn't on my son's head. It was in my wife's head, and it would eventually end up in my wallet. But we went to see the specialist anyways. I knew instinctually that since no one I ever knew growing up needed a orthopedic hockey helmet. The chances of my son actually needing one were slim, but that doesn't mean we weren't going to be sold one. Why? Because we're paranoid and we can afford it. So off to the specialist we went. He was going to run a series of tests to decide whether Sonny needed him to mold $1.89's worth of plastic into $4,000 worth of orthopedic helmet. I already knew the outcome before the result of the test, and it's not because I know anything about medicine. Keep in mind, I failed biology and driver's ed in the 10th grade. By the way, Mr. De Liberté and Mr. Gregory, F you, look who's writing a book. Now, I don't know anything about human anatomy, but I know everything about human nature. No termite guy is going to come to your house for a free inspection and come up with nothing. That fleet of vans with the giant fiberglass termites on the roof didn't pay for themselves. And when's the last time you took your car to the corner garage for a free brake inspection? The guy said, "Hey, they look brand new." Or, "Come back after you circle the globe a few times." If this guy doesn't find anything wrong with my son's head, he's not going to be able to afford that new set of tits he promised his wife. Obviously, he's going to find something wrong. That fleet of vans with the giant fiberglass kids' skulls on the tops didn't pay for themselves. Anyway, I'm sure you know how this story ends. The test suggested that if we don't buy that $4,000 PVC yarmulke, my son's going to look like Rocky from The Mask. So after a plaster mold was made of his head, which was about as easy as stuffing a raccoon into a garbage disposal, 4 to 6 weeks later we received the final product. The instructions were to wear the helmet 23 hours of the day, every day for 3 months. He lasted less than 45 seconds. He pitched such a fit and was so miserable that we had to pry the helmet off him almost immediately. Then my wife and I did that thing all parents do at some point or another. We gave each other that knowing fuck it nod. For those single folks reading this book, it's approximately the same look a cop gives you when he's accepting a bribe. And today my son is 4 with a head prettier than your Yul Brynner. Please indulge me for a moment on the off chance that the expert who prescribed the helmet is reading this. Dear fuckwad, obviously you don't know shit about your field. You said if my son didn't wear the helmet that his sunglasses wouldn't sit right on his head. Well, your $4,000 helmet became a $4,000 doorstop, and 3 years later my son's head is perfect, which means you're either A, horrible at what you do, or B, a liar preying on the guilt of moms who drive expensive SUVs. Perhaps it's a combination of incompetence and greed. Either way, you should focus full time on your true calling, gay porn. Thank you. We've built our entire society around children. Even Vegas. I guess we should have seen it coming when they started putting up bouncy castles instead of real fake castles. The tasteful stucco ones where a man could get a shrimp cocktail and a whore. Can you imagine that stuff flying in the 60s with the Rat Pack there? Hey, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, we want to make this town kid-friendly. Are you fucking high? How am I gonna nail a cocktail waitress with my wife and kids here? I'm gonna clock you in the head with this bottle of Cutty Sark and bury your ass in the desert if you don't shut up. Now, Dean, help me think of another racially insensitive joke I can use on stage when Sammy comes out. Shortly after my twins arrived home from the hospital, I had to pay a guy $1,000 to go through my house to make sure I couldn't open any of the drawers or use any of my outlets. It's insane. 3 years in and I still attempt to fling open my bathroom drawer only to have it grabbed by a nylon hook. I essentially gave somebody $1,000 to F with me. It'd be like if you paid a guy to fart in your car every morning before you went to work. Think about every bottle of aspirin you've ever tried to open when you were hungover, or any disposable lighter, the kind that takes 3 hands and a bench vise to get a spark out of. Or how many times you've been woken up from a nap by the backup beeper of a garbage truck, all in the name of child safety. I can't take my kid for a drive to the mailbox in a car that has 7 airbags and 5 crumble zones without the little shit being belted in like Buzz Aldrin. Yet, can you think of the one vehicle built after 1959 that doesn't have seat belts? Cement trucks? Beer trucks? A backhoe? No, they all require seat belts. It's a school bus. Yes, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's put our kids in an unwieldy metal cigar tube piloted by a 63-year-old with cataracts who has recently managed to string together 9 months of sobriety. If I drove my kid to school and the kid wasn't wearing a Nomex fire suit and a 6-way harness, I'd be arrested. Does anyone else see the insanity in this? I bet even prison buses have seatbelts. The other great irony in child safety is choking. Kids will put anything in their mouths, and any new parent will tell you it's a constant struggle between eat that celery stick and get that pencil out of your mouth. That's why I was shocked to see that the toy set my sister bought my kids for their second birthday was plastic food. Hot dogs, carrots, strawberries, broccoli, etc. If you go to any preschool around the country, you'll find a bucket of fake plastic food, all made in China and dipped in melamine before being loaded onto a filthy container ship. Of course, the first thing my kid did was put the toxic plastic food in their mouths. Then I had to yell, "Get that out of your mouth. That's not for eating." And my son gave me a look that said, "What the F, old man? 10 minutes ago we were sitting at the table and you were begging me to eat this carrot. Now you're slapping it out of my hand?" Who's the maniac who decided the plastic shit they can choke on should be the same shape and color of the real shit they need to put in their mouths and chew? And why is this monster still alive? Here's a little story off topic, but it sort of involves my kids, so seems like a good chapter as any to shoehorn it in. I had walked over to Jimmy Kimmel's a couple football seasons ago on a Sunday to watch the game. Somewhere around the second quarter of the late game, somebody killed my 7 Buzz beer by telling me Molly was missing. Molly's my blonde lab. She got out of Jimmy's yard, which is great for her and better for Kimmel since he's allergic, but horrible for me. I don't say my wife likes the dog better than me. It's probably a tie. But if Molly paid the lease on her Jag, though, the pendulum would definitely swing in her direction. Either way, I had 2 choices: come home with Molly or don't come home at all. So I immediately took off on foot, yelling Molly's name and running through the neighborhood. Luckily, I was wearing my eating outfit, knowing that I was going to consume at least Molly's weight in smoked meats. I wore elastic sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt and New Balance running shoes. As I was frantically running up and down Jimmy's street, I passed a guy watering his lawn and he smiled and gave me the thumbs up. It's at that point I realized in my drunken haste that I had forgotten to set down my Miller Lite. He must have been thinking, that man show guy is the real deal. I found Molly, but in the process I passed a half dozen more people, some walking their dogs and others driving their cars, never having the time to explain why I was out for a jog with a beer. The following weekend, I was once again getting ready to head over to Kimmel's for a long afternoon of drinking, eating, and pigskin. This time I thought maybe Molly would stay at home. Instead, I'll bring my son, who was probably a year and a half old at the time, so I loaded him into his side of the twin stroller and then thought, why should I carry over this 12-pack of Miller Lite? Why not slide it into the bottom of the stroller where the diapers go and save my back? Unfortunately, that area could only accommodate a 6-pack, so I had to throw the 12-pack the only place it would fit, which of course was next to my son on the other side normally inhabited by my daughter. So off I went. You probably know where this story is going, so I'll just fast forward to the part where the same neighbor was watering the same lawn, and this time instead of a jog with a beer, I was taking a Sunday morning stroll with my son in a 12-pack. Our eyes met momentarily and he had that I would call confused, part confused and part disgusted. I'm sure he was thinking to himself, God damn, does this Carolla have a problem with booze or what? He can't go for a jog without a cold one, and he can't even take his kid for a long lap around the neighborhood without his precious medicine. He should just keep walking and drop that kid off at the nearest fire station. Better to be raised by foster care than by Foster Brooks. Dr. Drew, his wife, and all the other paranoid Caucasians I spend time with are constantly telling us we have to get on waiting lists for expensive schools now. I always tell Dr. Drew, what's the difference? And does it even matter? I got warehoused at North Hollywood High before getting put on academic probation at Valley Junior College. And I'm smart. He says school teaches kids how to think. I disagree. I think whether your kid is smart or dumb boils down to one thing and one thing only. Are they curious? If they ask questions, want to know how and why things work, They could do pre-K through 12 in Tijuana and turn out just fine. And when did this pre-K bullshit start anyway? I don't remember it from when I was a kid. Effing pre-K is like someone finding a meal between breakfast and brunch. Yeah, it's just another excuse to pay someone to raise your kid. And I have twins, so this goddamn pre-K is going to cost me $10K. And for what? So some chick can watch my kids run in circles until nap time? I could get one of those plastic owls they put on the roof of seafood restaurants to do that. I just had an idea. If you have a special needs kid going to kindergarten for children with disabilities, it should be referred to as Special K. The parents will get a kick out of it, and let's face it, the kid could be in his 30s and he wouldn't know what the F you were laughing at about him. On the other hand, if your kids are not curious, even with the finest education, they'll still be the most boring people at the party, and as long as we're on the topic, what is smart anyway? Here's my simple definition, and I hope you're smart enough to appreciate it. The true test of brains to me is, are you able to achieve your goals? In other words, can you get what you want? If all you ever wanted to do was be self-employed and can't figure out how to do it, regardless of what your SATs say, I'm going to label you as dumb. And if you've always dreamt of backpacking through Europe and you hiked to the grave without ever achieving that goal, then no matter what degree you've received, in my book, you're dumb. It's the only kind of smart I hope for my kids to have. Sometimes it's about money, but maybe it's about starting a relationship or climbing a mountain. Either way, the ability to have a goal and achieve it is the most important kind of smart there is. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to find someone to finish writing this book. We've created a society of validation monsters. All you need to do is look at bumper stickers. They used to be on the backs of Volkswagen vans, and they fell into one of three categories. Funny, don't laugh, it's paid for. Or beam me up, Scotty. Sexual, honk if you're horny. Or if this van's a rockin', don't come a knockin'. And pragmatic, don't tailgate. Or gas, grass, or ass. Nobody rides for free. But they were never grandiose. I don't even know how to say that. Grandiose. Nobody bragged about their kids' accomplishments in the classroom or on the playing field, and you never saw the license plate frame that makes me want to hurl into my Audi's ashtray. Proud grandpa of Aiden and Dakota. We knew something back then that we seem to have forgotten today, which is that no one gives a shit about your grandkids or whether your fat son made the honor roll at his magnet school. Somebody decided 10 years ago that more kids would make the honor roll if we praised them on our Volvo bumpers. I think it's quite the opposite. I think your kids would be much more motivated to make the honor roll if they knew your car was going to get a big orange styrofoam dunce cap on the roof if they weren't pulling at least a 3.0. We'll call it the Denver dunce cap. Another example of how we're ruining our kids are Girl Scout cookies. Sounds innocent enough. How can Girl Scout cookies be responsible for the demise of our civilization? It's not the cookies, it's the distribution network. When I was a kid, Girl Scout cookies were actually sold by Girl Scouts, not the Carollas. Not that the Carollas ever bought anyway. A, they didn't take food stamps. B, in the early 70s, my mom considered anyone in a uniform the man. Quick aside. Let's take a moment and establish the power rankings of the Girl Scout cookies. Tagalongs, peanut butter and chocolate. Samoas, caramel, chocolate, and what seems like pubes. Thin Mints, and everything else is a distant fourth. The one that needs to be removed from the lineup altogether is the trefoils. These are the shortbread cookies, textureless, tasteless poker chips that are basically the Girl Scout version of the sacrament. How effing low does your self-esteem have to be to skip past the Samoas and the Tagalongs to order a couple of cartons of this white trash kibble? Are these the only ones you can eat without having to lift your clan hood? My point is, Girl Scouts don't sell Girl Scout cookies anymore. The moms and dads of the Girl Scouts do all the heavy lifting. When I was working at Jimmy Kimmel Live, every year around February, the Guerra dads would corner you in the hall, Hey man, my daughter's troop is trying to get to Yosemite this year. Can I put you down for a couple of cases? Can you imagine when you were a kid asking your dad to take a crate of cookies to work and sell it for you? He would be like, how about I take your effing bike to the corner and sell that? Today's generation of Girl Scouts are not learning how to work. They're learning how to delegate. Dads, how about you show some goddamn self-respect and stop muling pecan sandies for the Girl Scout cartel? And girls, how about you how about you show some dignity? Get in that brown skirt, fill up that radio flyer, go to the entrance of the supermarket, and wait to be abducted. Oh man, there is absolutely no end to Carolla's genius. And I think this next chapter, actually it's a long chapter, it's a short chapter, but I'm going to save it for next week because there's going to be 2 chapters next week that I'll read to you because they're both pretty short. So we'll read both of those chapters next week. You've just heard kids these days and all the issues with them. Next week, I'll catch you up on where have all the fellas gone? That's my question. Where have all the fellas gone? There's not any more men that have respect in being a man. They make you feel guilty for considering what's manly. Oh, being able to work on your car and do this, man work. Women will take you down for it too sometimes. They tell you, oh, well, you should do the dishes, you should do that. Well, why can't we call it women work? I mean, that's just what we did. It's nothing to get hurt over. I mean, I'd gladly stay home and do whatever, dishes, all that stuff. If somebody took care of me, I would take care of the kids. It's, but men were men, women were women, and I think we're all just getting confused because we all are zebras that have stripes and we want to get rid of them. But you know what? I'm just an old guy. I'm tired. I'm hot. I'm wearing this because I'm sweating my ass off. Got this fire blazing just for the cinematic look, and I'm in my red shorts, and I don't care. Show's over, everybody. Let's get out of here. It's time to go home. Enough is enough.